do whatever the Hyundai you want.
Hey, I'm Ricky Stenhouse Jr. G'day, I'm Marcus Ambrose.
Hey, this is Kenny Rose, and you're listening to
The Fuel Pod.
This podcast covers all things motorsports. It's unfiltered, it's unabashed, and
Ooh, we're going crazy.
Oh man. Oh,
Dude,
I can't get enough of the new intro, man.
I haven't
Excellent.
never
Well done, sir.
I've never listened to that intro and not laughed.
I know. I can't do it either.
And every time I'm like, God, I hope I remember to put the bleeps in there. Every single time. I'm like, I hope I didn't grab the wrong
Yeah.
one. It's great, man.
Yeah, we got to have
Great.
the bleeps or we're done for.
Yeah, we'll get in trouble
All right,
with,
man, so-
with Will.
Yeah. Welcome to episode 35 of the Fuel Pod. Linger.
It's an old Cranberry
And,
song. I love the Cranberries.
Mikey commented on it today. Yeah, it is based on the Cranberry song, but I feel like we're in that spot in the weird coming off the off season of racing where we're just, you and I are both lingering around waiting for F1. Nice, like the Orca.
That's it's a Christmas gift for my buddy here.
We are not sponsored by Orca, although Orca, if you're listening, that wouldn't be a bad thing.
Not a bad thing.
We'll put it out there. So anyway, but yeah, we're kind of lingering, man, waiting for F1 to get started. And I realize we do have a few other series that have or are about to, but I'm just chomping at the bit. I don't know about you.
Man, I'm so ready. You're ready for motorsports to start back when I'm looking forward to winter testing. I am.
Yeah.
I never thought I would want to watch a car reveal. I am eating up all of the NASCAR news and everything going on with NASCAR. Actually, the Hall of Fame thing's going on right now. I was watching it just a few minutes ago.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm ready for racing, man. Like, I can't wait.
Yeah. And it's sad that we don't get to watch, and F1, if you're listening, I don't mind saying it out loud, that we don't get to watch winter testing. I mean, and I get it, and we'll talk about winter testing when we get there, but it's just kind of a bummer. But
so it's not on F1 TV or anything?
No, it's not. It's nowhere.
Oh,
and
my gosh.
Again, when we get to that category, I'll tell you why. But
Okay.
it is what it is. But I did get to watch the Aston Martin and the Ferrari car reveal last year. Those were the only two I got to watch. I know F1 Farmer watched a couple of them as well. But it was cool. And it's just like it is when we do it in the game, when we do our 2-player career. I mean, it's a lot cooler than that, but they do take the tarp off, and, they're spinning the car on the dais there in the little turntable room. And then you got the driver standing there talking to press about the car and what they think of it.
So have you heard, has there been any rumblings on anything that's going to be out of the norm?
Well,
like as far as
we are literally still going through the, hey, what are we talking about tonight?
Sorry,
so when we get there,
I get excited.
But we also have Rally Monte Carlo going on, which for them is their big one. Just like Monaco is right over the mountainside for F1. The Rally Monte Carlo, big deal. We're going to talk about that tonight. We're going to talk about our new merch store, man, and how we got. Go for it.
You say we there. I have done literally nothing. I shared it a couple of times on Facebook and on Twitter. Jay, you have worked tirelessly on this thing. And if you guys, even if you don't buy anything, go check out. I put the link in the show description tonight. Just go check it out, and you can see the work this dude has done on it. It's impressive what he's done.
Well, thank you. I know if you talk to Dylan tomorrow when you get a chance, I told him, you say that, but like everything, I was like, man, I'm like a little kid when I send it to Chad and go, man, do you think this is okay? Do you think this is good? And you'd come back with, positive comments, and I'd be like, dude, are you sure you're just telling me that? Kind of thing. Yeah. So,
dude, it's impressive. Like I said, if you're just out there and just want to check it out, like I'm not saying, we would love it if you buy something, but if you don't buy anything, that's okay too. But go just look at the work this dude has done. Like, cause he recreated Red Bull stuff. He recreated the Ferrari logo. He's got a Mercedes shirt on there that's just ridiculous. It's everything is color coded perfect to go with whatever team you support with the Fuel Pod logo on it. It's really, like I said, it's impressive, man. It's awesome. You did a great job.
So I just entered a banner. Oh, there it is.
Oh, I forgot to put our banner up. Good job.
I'm trying out some new stuff. That's our Etsy store. thefuelpod.etsy.com. So go in there and check it out. And we're going to talk about what's in there here in a little bit. I just wanted to go ahead and highlight it. And then last but not least, we're going to talk about what we think some Drive to Survive storylines are going to be. These are complete conjecture. It's just kind of what we want. I know Chad's got a bunch he wants to go over. I got a few that I want to talk about, and there's a few that we're probably going to cuss and discuss together. So we'll see how that goes. So let's start off with the WRC Rally Monte Carlo. Big 2 days. So we got, Seb Ogier, and he's the old guy. He's not supposed to be winning anymore. And here we are through Friday's stages, and he's in first place. And you got a lot of people wondering why Callie Rovanpera is not killing it, and Elvin Evans and Terry Neuville and Oit Tanik. But, I got a simple answer for that. It doesn't matter how old you get. When you've got muscle memory, you got muscle memory. And Ogier's won this thing 8 times. There's only one other person that can say that, and his name is also Sebastian. Sebastian Loeb. So
it's always the Sebastians in WRC.
It's the Sebs, man. And so I think this is a one and done for Ogier. And I'm not, man, I love the guy. So I don't want to say it like making it sound really bad and callous. But, this is a race he's used to, and this is a race he shows up for. He's a game day player, man. You can't be, multiple world titles and not be a game day player when it comes to racing or rallying at Monte Carlo. That being said, Rovanpera is in second. He had a spin out in a hairpin, man, and he saved the car. He still lost the rear bumper, but it could have been worse. When you get a chance, go to YouTube and watch the highlights. I mean, he could have went off the side of the mountain. Bad. Yeah.
And I've only seen this track digitally, but I wouldn't want to go off the side of the mountain. I can tell you
that. No, I would not either. And there was no service park on this stage, so they had to repair their own car at least enough to finish the stage.
And I know I do this a lot. It's my
but I know it blows your mind. I love that about it.
It blows my mind if they work on their own cars. Like it's the only form of racing like that. So if you're
true.
Go Google WRC and see these guys out there. Like my favorite thing is one of them. I can't remember. You sent me a video that was fails or something, and one dude airmailed it into a tree. But my favorite one is these guys spin out, and you see all the fans circle the car and start pushing it in the right direction, and they're out changing something, and they're pushing the car to get. It's so daggum cool.
Man, they'll rope somebody. They'll rope a cow up if they've got to, and have the cow tow it over.
Yeah, they'll do whatever.
So anyway,
so
Rovanpera kind of clinging to second. I think he'll show out tomorrow, but the real test for any of these drivers is going to be, and you've done this stage on WRC Generations, which, by the way, if you haven't picked that up and you love rally, you are messing up in your life. So anyway,
even if you don't like rally, if you just want to figure out what we're talking about, because I'm not like some huge rally fan, but Jay kind of turned me on to the get the game, try it out. It was on sale on PlayStation Store. I play it's the most difficult game I've ever played, and it's a lot of fun. Like
I kind of
really
like it
because
it's a lot like golf, man. Because you're competing against how many participants there are, but it's still you against you. You know what I mean? So it's one of those things that makes it cool.
Because it's all time trial. Like it's all your time. Like you're not racing. You're not bouncing up against somebody. It's
and they do have that
brand in your time. Yeah.
They do have the racing brand. It's called Rally Cross, and it's not as popular as regular rally. But anyway, getting off topic, but they do have a stage coming up where it's like 60% snow and 30% tarmac, and you can't really plan for either. And you've done it, so you know what I'm talking about.
I know
so
exactly what you're talking about.
You can either put the snow tires on and you're slow for the asphalt sections, or you can put the asphalt tires on and you are talking about airmailing. You're airmailing constantly when you get to the snow. So that's coming up. Elvin Evans, one of my personal favorites. He was in second, but he had a disastrous stage on Friday and lost about 40 seconds. So he fell to fifth. Oit Tanik, who has switched to Ford, is killing it in this Ford Puma, and he's in fourth right now. So I'm hoping he'll have a better stage tomorrow. I'm hoping he'll have better stages on Saturday.
Who did he race with last year?
Because he was with Hyundai.
Was he one of the guys that swapped in and out, didn't have a full-time ride?
No, we'll get to him in a second, but so Oit Tanik was a championship contender almost all year until Rovanpera really kicked it up a notch. He really kicked it up a notch. And thanks, Jason. I saw that pop on there. Anyway, he kicked it up a notch, but it wasn't enough to catch Rovanpera, but it was enough to keep Elvin Evans at bay. But he was with Hyundai, and he moved to Ford. And then the reserve driver for Hyundai, Esapekalapi, which is two words, not one.
I think that I got so enamored with Rovanpera and Esapekalapi that I just anytime you started talking rally, I just wanted to hear about those two, and that was it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Especially a guy named whose first name is Oit, but it's spelled OTT. So
it reminds me of an old UFC fighter. I remember there being something.
There's always those guys, man. He's a crazy Finn too, I think. So anyway, Esapekalapi, and I put in my notes he was kind of meh for the other day, for yesterday.
Yeah.
He did okay. He kept the car intact. He finished the stage. His times weren't that great, and we talked about Cyril taking over Hyundai's racing team as chief principal. So, I can't imagine him not being called to the shed with Cyril, because Cyril's one of those guys that likes to have a heart-to-heart when it's over. And, hey, man, we got to see, So I really want Esapekalapi to keep his seat and do his thing, mainly because, everybody enjoys me saying his name, and I don't know. I mean, it's just his name. So
we need a shirt.
Makes me wonder, though, what he goes by with his family. Have you ever wondered that? Like, do they really call him Esapeka all the time? He's got to have some kind of pet name,
Yeah, it's got to be something short, like E.
Or Specca. I just call him Specca.
Yeah,
I like Specca. I think it's cool. But anyway, that's where we are with the rally. Of course, we got 2 more days left. We're going to have a long day. I think they're already started, depending on how the timeline works, time change, and the Greenwich whatever. And that still foggy to me, but they might already be started with Saturday. So who knows? But long Saturday, short Sunday, of course, and then the podium celebration. I'm just going to tell you right now, I would like to see OJ win this thing as kind of a going out.
So
if he's planning on going out, I hope
race of the year.
No. I just, I feel like
year, though.
He hasn't said anything either. So again, complete conjecture, but I'd like to see him walk away while he's still the man.
I got you.
And
so who do you think OJ is going to win? What's his?
I think he can. Yeah, I would like to see him win this rally. But Callie Rovanpera, I like Callie, so I hope he brings it back. And of course, I'd like to see Elvin Evans recover from where he was, because he was already in second. So anyway, it's a really tough.
That's
call.
What I was looking for. I didn't see Elvin Evans, and I didn't hear you say anything about him. He's in second right
he's
now?
The one I told you. Yeah, he had. It was
I see it now. I see it now. I heard he's had a disastrous. Yeah, but I didn't see. I was looking for it on here, and I didn't see it. I see it now.
And he's one of the ones they showed. He was out, by the wheel lugs, working on his car, trying to fix it after they had a spin out. So, but it's Monte Carlo. Everybody's spinning.
Yeah.
So here we are.
Monte Carlo, the 2 hardest races in all of motorsports, I think. Monte Carlo and Monaco.
Yeah. Doesn't matter if you're rallying or F1. So speaking of F1.
Yeah. All right. We're going to jump over to F1. I like it.
So we are still a month and a half away from a race, which will be Bahrain. But we do have – shoot, man. So what is today, the 20th? Yeah, that's my brother's birthday, by the way.
Happy birthday,
Happy 46, buddy. So anyway.
You're old, buddy.
No kidding. February 3rd is the first car reveal, and it's going to be Red Bull.
Of course.
So what are your thoughts? You think it's going to be – and I'm not talking about – we don't have to talk about design elements right now, but do you think the livery is going to change that much?
Okay, so
they're due for one, bro.
What I think's going to happen, what is going to happen, are 2 different things. Or I mean, what I think's going to happen, what I want to happen, are 2 different things.
Brother, that's our whole job on this podcast is just to.
I want it to be. Ooh, look at that! I got the J hand.
You do.
I did have the J hand right there. Yeah. I want the white livery. I want the white livery. I call it the icy white. I don't think they're going to change a whole lot. I think it's going to be the same thing they've run for the last 2 years. I minor differences, but I really, really, really want the white one.
So there is it's mythic now. It's almost legendary even to speak of it. And they only ran it, and I'm pretty sure they ran it in winter testing at Spain a few years ago. Okay. And it's called the corrupted livery. And so the Red Bull itself looks like it's like aged. The Red Bull, it's like starting to fade out. and it's
tattered?
on like a black digital camo chassis.
Okay, never mind. I changed my vote for wanting the white. I want the corrupted livery.
Yeah, the corrupted Red Bull livery it was on point, and they only raced it for one day.
I don't understand why race teams do that.
I don't either.
They have these amazing liveries that they come in and they spend all this money and time developing, and everybody loves them. And they're like, all right, we're going to do it one time. It's a special race. I'm like, you're killing me here, Smalls. I mean, I get it. Do it for one season. You know, do the corrupted for one season. Do the white for one season. Don't do it for one race. I don't know.
Yeah.
But
so I just got texted somebody asking for the link to the YouTube stream, and I don't have it because I'm in StreamYard.
If whoever's watching it, just if you go to YouTube and just search Fuel Pod, you'll find it.
Okay.
And Jason Neal agrees. The corrupted livery is the best. I've never seen this corrupted livery. I'm going to have to find it now.
Yeah, dude, it'll be corrupted Red Bull livery. It'll be immediate on Google.
So what do you think is going to happen? You think they're just going to, are they going to do a major update, you think, or you think they're just going to go with the plain Jane?
I think they're going to stay with what they got, man. I hope they do some changes, or at least give us a couple alternate liveries during the season. But I don't think they will. I think they'll stay. You know, it's almost that Bull Durham. You don't mess with a streak. They've got a streak going with this livery. It's kind of like when Notre Dame adds the clover to the helmet and they lose every time they do it.
Yeah, don't do it.
So,
but just real quickly, Stuart Hoffman called out. He's got a little a thing on Facebook. Stu, if you want to sponsor this, it would look really good in the corner. The Fuel Pod brought to you by Hoffman Sanitation. So just throwing that out there, buddy.
Yeah,
sorry,
absolutely.
I didn't mean to go off the rails there.
Oh crap! I was still in the banner tab, still trying to get used to the StreamYard. Although I love it.
I do, so man. I absolutely love this. It looks like so February 3rd, Red Bull. A couple of days later, your favorite team, Williams. Are they going to do anything there? Is it going to be the Williams only fan car? Like, what are we doing?
Let me ask you a question.
Okay.
Boy, I would love that if one of their guys got on Gran Turismo. I was like, dude, let's just do this. I would root for Williams all year.
100%.
I mean, it wouldn't do me any good. So my brings me back to my original comment to your question, which is, do we really care?
No, not really.
Yeah, we don't.
Nobody's ever going to see it. It's not going to be on TV unless they wreck. And now that Gotifi's not in the car, I mean, they're not going to wreck as often.
Well, now they got Logan Sargent. He might be spinning out too. So anyway, Feb 11th is Alpha Tauri. I am kind of excited about this one. They can change this one up.
I like this one.
I love this car. It is.
I love the bull on the side. It may be
you like the Cowboys colors.
Yeah, of course. It's silver and blue. I mean,
yeah.
But it's just a cool looking car because it's kind of a variation of the Red Bull Bulls. So that's what I like about it.
And in case you're not a huge F1 fan, this version of Red Bull is not an energy drink. It's a fashion company. So go to alphatauri.com and they've got clothes and different kinds of things. So go in there and take a look at it.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah. February 13th, we have two reveals, Aston Martin and McLaren. You know McLaren's going to change theirs. They always do.
They changed
theirs? They haven't had the same livery any year to year.
Okay. My favorite part of that car is, and I brought it to you.
I know what you're going to say, but go ahead. Wheels. Yeah.
And I didn't realize it's the Google logo.
Yeah.
Is it? And I thought it looked like the Simon Says
Chrome
game. Yeah,
it looks like the Simon logo.
It
does.
If you're out there in Streamland, look up the McLaren car and tell me the wheels don't look like a game of Simon Says.
You're right.
It's perfectly. I mean, I thought it was. I was like, it's got to be some kind of joke or something.
To be fair, both of their drivers are young enough to still play Simon Says. So
or they're young enough to never even heard of Simon Says.
That too, also true. February 14th, Tifosi will be.
Before you move off, what do you think? Aston Martin, are they going to do anything?
So no James Bond movies slated for probably the next 2 years. Okay. Aston Martin Lawrence Stroll in the middle of transitioning to some Chinese conglomerate for Aston Martin. No, I don't think. I mean, they might change. I'd like to see them do something with the Aston Martin logo that's wild and kind of vivid. Maybe rotate the actual Aston Martin wings down in kind of a diagonal fashion across the chassis. That'd be cool, and make them like that blaze yellow that they used last year. Okay. Especially on a British racing green car. That looks really cool.
Now, do they ever go away from that British green look? Or is that their
that's their thing, man.
Okay, I didn't
British
know.
Racing Green is, I mean, it pretty much stems from Aston Martin and David Brown, which, by the way, little Aston Martin trivia for you. David Brown was kind of the guy they brought in to save Aston Martin in the 50s or whatever, late 50s. So any Aston Martin that you see, that's the DB6 or the DB9, that's David Brown.
Oh, wow.
That's what the DB stands for.
See, you listen to the Fuel Pod, you learn something new about cars every day.
So anyway.
Okay.
Ferrari, February 14th.
Valentine's Day. A red car for Valentine's Day.
Red hearts for Valentine's Day.
I like it. You think that was planned?
Blowing up on March 5th. I mean,
true.
Turning into my own team right now.
Already. I mean, you got to start early.
Yeah, you gotta. What's it called? Metering expectations or whatever.
Now, do you think they don't do a whole lot different, right? I mean, they might change little bits, but
it's Ferrari, man.
It's going to be
Give
Ferrari
a kid
red.
a piece of paper. Time to draw a car. It'll be red. It's
every
red
time
car. I'm just gonna, and I know, try not to have congestive heart failure out there, Fuel Pod Nation, but it's usually one of my least favorite cars on the grid, livery wise.
I mean, it's kind of boring.
I know, man.
Yeah, it just is. I mean,
especially that year they did the gradient to like red to blood red at the rear of the car. That was awful.
Yeah, it's just. So, I mean, stick with your red. It's. I mean, it's one of those classics that you have to keep. That nobody.
Yeah.
It's boring, but you can't change it. You know what I mean? It just kind of is what it is. Mercedes is February 15th. It looks like. What have they?
Their car will change a little bit.
So they were.
I think so.
They were silver last year, right?
Yes, okay, they were back to silver from black.
Okay, so I thought they were black, and then they went to silver. But they have a little bit of that British racing green in their car too, right?
Yeah.
Don't they kind of have like that little teal green look? Any chance of them going more of that, or you think they'll stick with the silver black kind of thing?
I think it'll be that. And I mean, of course, their chief sponsor is Petronas, and it's kind of that almost turquoise green.
Maybe that's
more of a turquoise green than a turquoise blue, but
yeah.
And I think they'll still have. I mean, they haven't lost that sponsor, so that'll be obviously chiefly displayed on the car. So,
and then February 16th, we got Alpine. You think they're going to keep the pink?
Oh God, I hope not, man. I really don't, but I know they will.
That's like their big sponsor, though, right? BBT.
Yeah, it's BWT, the mineralized water solutions, and who knows? But
yeah.
I'd like to see them go back to matte-free red, which they had on the car for a year before Otmar. It feels like Otmar just brings BWT wherever he goes, so it is what it is.
And then we don't have a Haas scheduled yet, and we put on here TBD, but I was just looking on planetf1.com, and Alfa Romeo just announced theirs for February 7th.
Oh, really?
They had one of my favorite liveries.
Prettiest car on the. Absolutely. And they went retro last year. The year before that, they were doing what everybody else was doing with a modern style. Then they went with the old school Alfa Romeo logo.
It was beautiful. Man.
It was a gorgeous car.
That deep red, like that crimson red. I mean, it really was one of the best looking cars on the grid.
Of course you like that. That's an Oklahoma City car.
You give me silver and blue and crimson and cream, baby. I'm happy.
Yeah, you're good to go. Go Bama. Anyway.
Roll Tide.
Yeah. So
I like the Tide too. Okay.
But and Haas doesn't have theirs, but it's going to be Haas MoneyGram. So there'll be the MoneyGram logo right below Haas.
I'm sure it'll be a red, white, and blue design.
Yeah, it always is. I mean, it should be. It's the American team. So, I mean, it is. Of course, you know how many national flags are red, white, and blue? I mean, honestly.
It's a bunch.
Well, first off, Russia is, and France. So, I mean, there you go, right there. The UK.
I hope that before we go off on a Sheldon flag podcast, I hope it's majority white. I always love the white cars. I mean, if I can't get a white Red Bull, I'll take a white Haas. I think those cars look cool.
Yeah, I do like the Haas car. I liked it when they went with. Like last year, where it was almost completely white. That year that they had red and white and gunmetal and black, it was the one where there was the season where Romain Grosjean was in the wall on turn 1 and pretty much every race, including even during a safety car at Baku. But Yeah, I hated that car. That car was just awful. So anyway, you asked a question.
I did.
Any big reveals, car designs, new things that the car reveals, or is this strictly a media? And it is. This is a media sponsor event. They'll put it on YouTube, but it's usually always after the fact. So I mean, it's going to be mostly a media event. Yeah.
Like there's no big car design. This is more livery, paint scheme kind of thing.
Yeah, and it's more livery, and it's also the first chance for the media to talk to the driver about the car and what they think of it.
Gotcha.
So
I think I kind of got the car design, the reveals and winter testing a little bit mix and match, and I put that on here about a lot of times you would see that's when they the Mercedes changed and people noticed it. The other team saw it kind of thing.
Right.
Anyway, are we ready to move over towards winter testing, or is there anything else you?
Yeah, we are. Let's do it, man.
Car launches and reveals and.
Yeah, because talking about winter testing gets us closer to racing, dude. Let's talk about it.
And winter testing starts in, almost exactly a month, February 23rd to the 25th of Bahrain. Why is it at Bahrain this year? I thought it usually was at Spain.
It's just crazy, man. It starts on my 13-year-old's birthday and ends on my first ex-wife's birthday. Anyway.
That's not weird at all.
Anyway, at the Bahrain International Circuit. So, anyway, what did you say?
Spain. I thought it was usually at Spain.
It is, but I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that, and we didn't even talk about this. This is a 23 race season coming up.
So a couple of races longer than normal.
Yeah. So China's still under COVID restrictions, so we're not going to get China. But we picked up Las Vegas, and we brought Qatar back into the mix. So now we're going to have 3 Middle Eastern GPs. We'll have Abu Dhabi. We'll have Bahrain and 4 Jeddah and Qatar.
Wow.
So yeah. Anyway, it's gonna be crazy. Okay. A lot of desert racing.
A lot of desert. I mean, Vegas is a desert. That's desert racing.
So basically, winter testing it's got some crazy rules. Well, they're not too crazy. So they get to drive the car 8 hours a day. Only one driver from a team can be on the track at any one time. They have to take a break after 4 hours for 1 hour, and then they got 4 more hours after that hour break. So they get basically it's a work day, working 4 hours, taking a lunch, and getting back on the track. But like I said, you can't have both drivers on the track at the same time.
So why? What have you ever heard why that rule is?
Well, I think it's a lot so they can track it. But again, this testing is the first chance the media gets to see the cars run. And I think it actually benefits them. Plus, I don't know if you watched any of last year's winter testing, like after the fact videos. Some cars will be fitted with diagnostic tools. They'll have rods sticking off of these little grid things that they put on the front where they're testing wind resistance and how the brake ducts are working. And then the other car won't run with it at all. So it's almost like a control and variable group. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that makes sense.
One will go out and run 20 laps, and I'm just throwing this out there as a blanket number. It's not 20 laps, but they'll go out and run 20 laps and with all that gear on it. And then once the team in the paddock gets the results from that diagnostic gear, they'll tune the other car without the diagnostic gear based on what they got from the one that had it. And then they'll send it out clean and it'll run. And then that driver will be like, okay, so, hey, in the sweeps, it was loose. And then, when I got into tight, it had understeer and, whatever their feedback is. And then they'll send the other car back out with the diagnostic gear. So, anyway, that's how it usually works.
So they get 8 hours total. Each team gets 8 hours total, right?
Per day.
Okay. So I see you have rule changes on here.
Yeah, and man, I wrote a lot of minutia here, but we don't really need. Basically, so a lot of teams, or at least this is the FIA's opinion. A lot of teams were doing everything they could with this new car to make it more streamlined so it would run faster.
Yeah.
The result was the porpoising, the vertical oscillation of the car. And FIA thought the teams didn't care about safety. They just wanted to be fast. And I'm going to tell you, from a business aspect, I bet there was some truth to that.
Oh, I guarantee you there was, yeah.
So basically what the FIA said was, hey, it's got to be, your rake's got to be set a minimum to this or a maximum to that. And they've kind of put a governor on what you can, how far you can point the car down or whatnot. So that way teams can't just put a car slammed on the road and the driver's just walking, driving around, just bouncing, vertical and just slamming their spine. So that's a big rule change.
And then I saw in here where it's got some larger mirrors. So last year, those things got really small, right? If I remember correctly.
Yeah, but if you look at this, man, and try to think of it from the aspect of what's the closest when we watch a race on TV, what's the closest you think we get viewing wise to a car? Because here's the thing. That thing was 150 millimeters by 50 millimeters last year. And the new one is an extra 50 millimeters by an extra 10 millimeters.
So not much bigger.
I feel like it, unless we're watching the TV pod camera, we're not going to realize that the mirrors have changed at all.
I mean, but I'm sure the car, the drivers are going to do it.
Absolutely.
I mean, for them, it's going to be a big deal, but it's also going to, even 50 millimeters by 10 millimeters, it's going to create more drag. It is what it is. It can create more drag on the car, so they're going to notice.
That was the problem with the porpoising in the first place. So they introduced a car this year that had, 3-inch bigger tires from 14s to 17s or something like that. 14. Yes. So, and that naturally is going to increase the size of the chassis. It's naturally going to increase the size of the front wing and the rear wing and everything about it, which is why Mercedes had such a hard time with that zero. What was that thing called? Zero side pod or zero pod or whatever they had?
Zero pod.
Yeah. That's why they had such a hard time, because they basically increased their own resistance. And I think they were onto something. It just took them a whole season to figure it out.
Which, by the way, did you see George Russell had some
words? Took his shirt off? Oh, he didn't take. Okay.
Yeah. Well, you just talked about they took a whole season, and he said, basically everybody better be watching for us this year, because now we got it figured out. We're coming back. Now we got everything ironed out. So you better be on the lookout next year. And he's probably right, honestly.
I was getting ready to say I don't like George Russell, but I think he's being absolutely honest when he says that. I think if Red Bull pulls, and I know we're on a sidebar here, but I think if Red Bull pulls the whole we're going to rest on our laurels because we got Max, I think that'll be a mistake.
Yeah, if you think back to again, I know we're kind of off the rail, but you think back to the end of last year, the cars that were going the best were Lewis and George. Every race. Well,
and I'd like to, if it's okay with you, I'd like to table some of this, because this is part of my proposed storylines for Drive to Survive this season.
Oh, okay, perfect. I didn't read down that far.
Yeah. So you talked about Drive to Survive 3 years ago, and there was an issue with Mercedes. The issue really wasn't Mercedes; it was with Aston Martin. And it's important. And I would have never thought to bring this up. So good for you. But the problems with Aston Martin, that they copied Mercedes's car and all the other teams. And when I say all the other teams, there was really only 3 or 4. It was Renault, McLaren, Williams, and Ferrari that lodged a complaint that led to a hearing saying that Aston Martin just absolutely blatantly copied the preceding year Mercedes car. And they kind of did, but 2 things you got to remember. One, Aston Martin runs a Mercedes power unit. So the guts of that car are Mercedes already. Now, from a constructor, to be considered a constructor, you have to construct your car. You can buy a power unit and you can hire a chassis contractor, but you have to build your car on your own. Anyway, they didn't let us, obviously, on the closed doors hearing, but it was determined that Aston Martin didn't break any rules. And then last year, this previous year's racing, we saw the race where Aston Martin had one car one day, and the very next day, they had basically the Red Bull car.
I remember
in practice.
Yeah,
and the big joke was, I remember bringing this up to you. They came back in the pits, and as they're going by the Red Bull's pit lane, they were all standing out front drinking the green Red Bull.
Yeah,
which that was priceless, man. Drinking a Aston Martin colored Red Bull can to show that hey, you copied our stuff. Imitation's the best form of flattery, kind of thing.
That's fine.
Ultimately, it didn't do him that much good, but
Nope.
Here we are. So
Cool.
All right.
Well, it can't get here. I can tell you what, Formula One season can't get here soon enough, man.
I know. Let's flip flop 2 of my agenda items. We're going to move straight to the Drive to Survive storyline just so we can keep the momentum going.
Okay.
And not bust it up with something else. I don't know why I did it that way because I was tired. But anyway, here we are. So my first one, and Chad, I didn't want to put a lot of, crazy notes in this because I kind of wanted to just throw an item out there and then talk about whether or not we're going to see what drama we could possibly see on Drive to Survive this season. So the season premieres February 24th. My first item, I'm just going to say it out loud, Danny Rick.
Yeah, I'm ready to see some of the behind the scenes. I want to see some interviews with him. I mean, I know he's going to give us canned responses. I know. But I want to see the emotion on his face, how he was feeling, how it wore on him. Because, I mean, you remember he put the logo on his helmet, basically saying, tell everybody to shut up kind of thing. I mean,
he also literally put the Ricky Bobby cheetah on his helmet one time that just said me, saying, it's the solidarity of me, basically.
I'm ready to see just kind of. I had some strong words for Zach. I mean, not that he hears this, but I had some strong words from Zach about the way he handled that entire thing. The team print. What you remember because he came out supporting.
I remember you having strong words, and I guess I just saw that side of the argument differently than you did.
Yeah, I just felt like he supported him and then backed off and then said he was misunderstood, and I think he handled it really poorly. And I really want to see it from the Drive to Survive lens. What was going on behind the scenes. Not that they're going to show us everything, but I just kind of want to see a little bit of that.
Right. One thing I know they're going to show, and now that I've got 4 seasons of Drive to Survive under my belt, I always look for these canned scenes, and you and I talked about a couple of them, but there was a scene this year, a photo this year, and it might have been on Twitter. They were back in the back of the paddock, and Danny Rick was like sitting on a duffel bag playing on his phone. And literally every single other F1 driver was over about 20 feet away in a gaggle, laughing and joking.
Yeah.
And he was just by himself. And I can totally see them putting that picture on the episode or putting that scene on the episode with Will Buxton talking about, Ricardo was just crushed and he was alone. And, you can just kind of hear that isolated. And, and furthermore, he did it to himself, and I could just hear Buxton doing that. But so I look forward to a lot of crybaby nana Danny Rick stuff this season.
Yeah, I think your top 2 on here, the A and B, I think are going to be the dominant storylines for this season.
Well, I mean, dude, Vettel was the spark that lit the flame.
Yeah, well, I mean,
when we were doing our episodes, we were talking about when's silly season going to start. And we were both saying, well, once something crazy happens, that's when it'll start. And Vettel announcing his retirement was that thing.
That was the domino. And I don't mean just that. I mean just he's going to have at least one episode just dedicated to him and him retiring and walking away and one episode's going to be his. I mean, like it's just going to be his episode.
Yeah, and I think we'll see every single race at least for a minute in that episode.
I do too. I agree.
Especially Japan, because that was his favorite. It was his favorite track. We'll see Vettel walking around Japan in the rain, and that'll be a way for them to also work in that safety situation with Pierre Gasly getting spun out in the construction truck.
Oh yeah, I forgot all about that.
That'll be big.
Yeah,
and then after that, of course, we'll get George Russell going. This is completely unsafe, and they're just it'll be Russell speaking for everybody
for sure.
So.
And then Fernando Alonso jumping ship and moving over.
Well, here's the thing. Apparently, and I didn't know this, but apparently Stroll wanted Alonso from the jump when he took over Aston Martin, and he couldn't
I didn't know that.
And I don't have this hardcore confirmed, man. So you might, anybody listening, I just heard that. But he also said, I guess when Vettel decided to retire, we need somebody of that caliber. Well, there's only 2 other people with that caliber. Lewis Hamilton and Alonso. So
Yeah.
Anyway,
yeah, and then so the Piastri incident of 2022, I think a lot of
sounds
that
like
is
a
going to
bad Italian meal
right
disaster. Yeah,
the pastrami incident. I think a
yeah,
lot
the
of that is going to
pastrami
tie into the
incident.
Danny Rick story. I think you're gonna get a lot of like what was going on there, and had they already signed Piastri before they told Danny he was leaving, or
Yeah.
how all that's going to work out. The Logan
I think
Sargent thing.
Danny's going to be a key figure in at least 2 episodes.
Oh, at
I
least.
feel like there's going to be the initial shock that he wasn't going to be at McLaren. And I think the other one will be what you just said. I think it's going to be the wrapped up in a nasty spitball Piastri Ricardo episode.
Yep.
So,
and I would like to know if there was, I kind of want to see the, I know I'm going back to Danny Rick. I kind of want to see the dynamic between him and Lando. Once he realized he wasn't coming back, how did that dynamic change between those two? Because they never seemed super close.
They didn't.
If you remember, Danny
crazy.
hit him in the face with that big old rubber ball at one point.
One of my favorite non-race events of 2022. And it's funny you brought it up, and the reason I say that is because it was like McLaren was running full damage control after we heard Danny Ricciardo wasn't going to be there, and Lando had all of these posts everywhere, social media, TikTok, everywhere, talking about how he was going to miss Danny and how Danny was an integral part of his career development and how they were close. And it was funny because a week before that, I could have swore they were worst enemies. And I realize a lot of that is media driven and spun, but some of it has to be true, man. Just like anything else, you know, it might be something there. Yeah. And I don't think they were. And we heard Lando out of his own mouth last season on the show say, they brought Danny in because they thought he was this big talent. And what's he going to do now that I'm faster than him? You can't say that Netflix spun that. You said those words out of your mouth.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what context it was in. I cannot either.
I've tried, and he's probably a really nice guy, but I cannot make myself like that guy.
And he is uber talented. I'm not disputing that whatsoever, right? So, and there's a big thing. It was Sports Illustrated or something talking about this is going to be an insane year for McLaren, and I absolutely disagree. And maybe at the end of the season, I'm sitting here with egg in my face and going, "Man, I'm sorry, McLaren killed it," but I really don't think so.
I thought last year was going to be the year. I'm not falling for that again.
Yeah, I'm not either. They're going to have to show me. They're going to have to prove it to me. So it is what it is. But
Logan Sargent, first American, not the first American, but the first American in a while.
First American in a long time. Yeah.
That'll be a cool.
Going to Williams.
I mean, there's not going to be a whole lot there, probably. I mean, who knows if he even makes? I'm sure he'll make an episode or two, but it's not going to be a whole lot, I don't think.
Dude, but seriously, if you worked anywhere else and your boss came to you and said, "Hey, we would consider it a win if you got 4 points this year," because we know our car is terrible.
Yeah,
and it hasn't been good in 10 years.
I think he'll be more of a storyline on the next year's Drive to Survive.
Yeah.
I don't think he's going to be. I think he'll be a little blurb this year, not a whole lot. And
I think it'll be in that little post last episode little blurb. We got they'll do the big, and then they'll be like new talent this year, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So
now Nick DeVries, I think, is going to get a little bit of run.
I think he's going to get the story that you brought up last week. The so tired I can't get out of my own car.
Yeah, he'll definitely get that storyline.
Yeah,
he's something will be in there.
And he seems like a genuine dude, man. How many post-interview or how many post-race shows did you watch after a race? Like the 45-minute
I watched a few. No, I didn't watch all of them. I watched a few.
He co-hosted like 7 of those things.
Okay, I didn't watch any of those.
So a lot of people got to get a lot of FaceTime after races with Nick DeVries. So anyway, cool. Yeah.
Maybe a fan of his.
But I think he's a supreme talent. I think he's going to shock some people this year.
Okay, I see now. I thought these were other Formula One. You put on here Gasly's got the Red Bull chip off his shoulder. Do you think that'll get a whole lot of play?
and I wish I could say this was my own original thought, and it's not. But I think a lot of the world in F1 agrees with me when I say he needed away from the Red Bull machine. So here's a guy that started with Toro Rosso, which became AlphaTauri. But it was Toro Rosso when he left Toro Rosso and went to Red Bull. And then, of course, he had that disastrous year, which played out on the show, where he only got to do, I think, 7 or 8 races before he got fired and sent back to Toro Rosso, and they brought Albon in.
I think that's still one of the way Christian Horner is the best. Okay, first off.
Yeah.
I think he handled both of those drivers incorrectly, but I mean, who am I to judge?
Well, I don't think that was Horner. I think that was Marco.
Okay.
You say whatever you want, and Horner's a genius. He's a genius race strategist. He's a genius go-between liaison officer. But Helmut Marko decides who stays and goes.
I don't know.
Christian Horner.
That one just drove me nuts. I just felt like that was the wrong decision. I thought Gasly would be good, and then I thought Albon would be good. And
it's not like Helmut Marko is a slouch in the brain pan or not a brilliant strategist, but and I'm not saying put him out the pasture, but dude, the guy's long in the tooth. It's time to go do something else and just turn it over to Horner.
Now, your next one, by the way, I'm sorry if you still have more going on, but
I do, man. I do with Gasly because he's an uber talent that hasn't been treated like an uber talent.
I agree.
So I want to talk a little bit if you're on the fence or if you just started watching Formula One this year, and you find yourself like a lot of people going, man, I like this kid, but he's just not there yet. And a lot of us are like that. When he went back to Toro Rosso, and then later, of course, it turned into AlphaTauri, dude, he killed it there for a while, right? So he was doing, he was running midfield in a car that wasn't really midfield.
He's a great racer.
He won a race. Yeah, he's incredible talent. So I'll let it go there, but I'm telling you, watch out for him this year. Assuming his own teammate doesn't, that's another whole story in and of itself, but he could potentially be wiped out by his teammate quite a bit.
I agree with you.
Esteban Ocon should be straight fitted for a straight jacket and anger management classes.
It tells us how you really feel. This next one I'm really excited
about.
No,
you don't want to
hear. I want to hear about your next title, Ferrari. I think is going to play a huge role in this season.
So they say one of the biggest oxymorons in the world is military intelligence, because basically there isn't any.
Yeah.
But so I was thinking about that with Formula One, and I think Ferrari's oxymoron is race strategy, because there isn't any.
I mean, it is a fly by the seat of your pants operation. I can tell you that.
It felt like it. First off, you got to realize that there are 4 tires, in fact, that go on a car, 1. And 2, you've got to play the buffer when you're running in first or second of how long a pit stop takes when you bring somebody in. So you want to bring them in when they can cover the pit stop and still retain their position. And if you want a better description of pit strategy, Math, you should probably talk to Chad because it blows his mind.
Dude, I can't. Don't get me started on digital pit strategy because it doesn't make any. There's no way that the algorithm works in my favor ever.
Anyway, Fred Vassar is the kind of guy, from what I can tell, that walks into a boardroom and goes, last year was terrible. It's not going to be terrible this year. And then he lowers his head and goes, it's not going to be terrible this year, or you guys won't be in this room the following year. Right? Yeah. And they fix it.
It's one of the reasons I couldn't stand Egon. He showed way too much
lenience.
Yeah, he was way too passive.
There's nothing wrong with not being a guy that chews everybody's head off, but you got to know. It's just like parenting. You got to know when to apply the firm hand, right? So it's one of those things that Fred Vassar brings to the table in spades. So I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do with that team.
Cool. That'll be fun. I mean, again, that the Fred Vassar part won't play out till next year, but it'll be cool seeing. I mean, that's another one I would like to see the behind the scenes. I want to know if there are people in Ferrari that are like, why is Egon not doing it? And Binotto not doing anything? Why is he not making these decisions? What's the thought process behind not making a change at summer break or whatever? You know what I mean? I would love to hear why they didn't do those things, because we were here as two amateurs that just watch racing going, someone has to get fired at summer break. Like,
yeah,
we said that. And for him to be like, oh, nothing's going to change after a disastrous first half of the season, as far as strategy went, cost himself multiple wins or multiple podiums anyway. And for them not to do anything was just, it was crazy. Like, I still can't get over the fact that they didn't do anything. Anyway, sorry, we can move ahead. That's all I had.
Yeah. And there was, man, we could do a whole show on how bad that was. So if you're a newer Formula One fan, you might not realize this either, because you watch a race and you see 48 people with headsets on, and you assume all of them can talk to a driver. The driver only ever talks to one guy during the race. That's the race engineer. He doesn't even talk to the chief principal. So he's only talking to the race engineer. Now, that race engineer is getting feeds from everybody, right? So he can hear from the chief principal and from another type of engineer or people in the paddock or whatever. But it makes you wonder, and, we weren't part of those conversations, but it makes you wonder when Leclerc Sainz was rolling around and the race engineer came over the horn and was like, hey, no, you're good. We don't want to pit right now. And a driver says, are you sure? And he goes, yeah, we're going to wait 5 to 7 laps. You wonder if that was the race engineer or Binotto saying, hey, let's wait 5 to 7 laps. Let's cool it down.
When the driver's driving 180 miles an hour around a track and his strategy is better than the guy that's paid to make the strategy, that's a problem. I mean, you can't have this guy doing math and when they should pit. He may not even know what lap they're on at the time. You know what I mean? And for him to have a better race strategy brain than your chief principal, your team principal is a bad. So it's got to get better next year. I think that whatever they do will be better.
And it's sad, man, because I like Binotto. He's a cool cat, and I don't know why I just lost everything. I think I hit my space bar and I lost everything on here. Oh, there it is. It's back. Sorry.
For you.
Anyway, let's move on to my favorite story, which I can't even believe I'm saying it out loud. My favorite story from 2022 that will definitely be on this season of Drive to Survive, and that's Mercedes playing the little engine that could. And, if you're in our age group, you know that story. So here's Mercedes. They win 7 world titles in a row. Then they lose one. And then we had a massive rule change. And a lot of people that are just coming into the sport this year or last year won't realize that. But the difference between 2021 and 2022 from a car and rule standpoint are night and day. Absolutely night and day. So Mercedes takes this gigantic gamble with their chassis design, their complete design, in fact, running the zero pod and running a lot of different things. And it fails, epically fails, man. I mean, stupendous fail. But they stuck with it, right? So they had the craziest porpoising. They had the craziest car problems. They basically couldn't maintain a top 10 car for a little bit. But, man, a lot of teams would have buckled right there. I feel like Haas would have buckled right there, right?
I mean, I thought Mercedes was going to buckle.
And they don't. They didn't, and you hear that, and it's cliche as all get out when you hear it's not how you fall down, it's how you get back up. They are the embodiment of that statement from last year. So they fought back. They fought back and they fought back, and then quietly, and you and I even talked about this, they were quietly running 2-3, 2-4, 2-5, for lots of races before anybody said, oh my God, Mercedes in second place or third place, right?
Yeah. So
my hat's off to Toto Wolff. My hat's off to Lewis and George. I know George, I jam you up a lot, buddy. And A, you deserve it. And B, you need to mature a little bit, but it'll come around at some point.
Yeah, I think he's going to end up being a really good racer.
I do too. And I get to say that, man, at this point in my life. I can say, hey, look, you're a turd. You need to fix it.
Yeah.
But Toto, he is a wartime conciliary, man. He knows what he's doing. He knows his craft. He does it very well. So I look forward to seeing what they can do with their car this year. I really do.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of what I was saying earlier. What George said, basically, you better be watching because we got it figured out. We're going to be a lot better this year, and they may be. They
will. So
then,
Red Bull,
yeah,
and Max Verstappen and dominant from pretty much the second race to the last race. I know a lot of people will disagree with me, and they'll say it's probably the fifth race or the sixth race.
Well, I was actually going to disagree with you. It's funny you say that because I remember you and I talking
your
about
disagreement.
We thought Ferrari was going to run away with it. Remember, I said I just want it to be competitive,
right?
And it ended up not being competitive, but it was the other way.
It wasn't even close.
But because he didn't. Okay, so Max wrecked or blew up in the first race, right?
So he had his engine fail in the first race, and then literally like 5 laps later, Checo's engine went down.
And then something happened in race 3, maybe?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and I can't remember what it was. I think he wrecked out on that one. I don't think it was really engine failure.
Leclerc had a pretty good lead there. I mean,
yeah.
Like I said, I remember saying, you and I talked about it. I just want the championship race to be competitive all year long, and I'm not sure Red Bull. I mean, Red Bull reliability was on my back markers for a month and a half.
Yeah.
You pouring another adult beverage there, Jay?
I'm actually not. I'm drinking tea, Chad, so chill out.
Yeah, a kid. I like it. Hey, man, there's nothing like an adult beverage on a Friday night while you're doing the fuel pod.
Right.
But yeah, you're still right. I mean, and I think there's going to be some fun in the middle. I don't know how much fun, but one of the storylines that is not on here, but is Checo was in second for a while and was running better than Max in the middle of the year. Maybe the first quarter of the year. Remember that?
Yeah.
When we talked about like who's going to be driver one, what are they going to do if Checo gets ahead of him? What are they going to do if he gets a lead in the championship points? So I would like to kind of see what that dynamic was like as well.
Yeah, so I love Ferrari. My record's pretty clear on that, but and we had signs of greatness. The first race was great. The race that Sainz won was fabulous. And they had glimpses, but if you'll remember, we talked about this. It was a lot to me like that Red Bull campaign that Red Bull lost the year before Max won the title for the first time.
Yep.
They were so close, but no cigar, right? And I think this was Ferrari's year for that this past year. Now, if they don't get close or win it this year, I don't know if it'll happen.
So
I think you could potentially see one of the drivers leaving at the end of next year.
So you're talking about the year before Max. Did Max come in second to Lewis?
Yes, 2020.
Okay, and then 2021, Max beats Lewis the last race.
In the last race, on the last lap of the last race.
The only difference here is you had an aging Lewis Hamilton that Max beat. Leclerc has a Max Verstappen at the start of his prime.
Do you really think? Do you, honest to God, think that Lewis Hamilton's age had anything to do with the past 2 years he's ran a car?
I don't know. I'm just saying he's at the end of his career. You know what I mean? Or if he's not at the end, he's closer to the end than the beginning. Max is closer to the beginning than the end. I don't know. I don't know. I think it's going to be harder for Leclerc. I think Leclerc timing helped him out. You had,
yeah.
I guess he didn't have the rule change until last year, but I don't know. I just felt like timing helped Max out. Leclerc may take that step. I don't know. Leclerc may take that step. I just feel like it was easier for Max that he had an older 7-time world champion, Lewis Hamilton, and Leclerc is going to have in his prime, basically just starting his prime, 2-time world champion, still hungry, Max Verstappen, that he's going to, it seems like a bigger bear to overcome. Maybe I'm wrong, but
yeah. And I'm not disagreeing with you, but Lewis Hamilton's one of those guys where I don't think age was the issue.
I mean, Lewis Hamilton might as well be Tom Brady. I mean, I know what you're saying.
Yeah. Except the Tom Brady from last week. But yeah, other than that, yes, he was
other than Tom Brady.
Yeah. So and that's kind of all we have on that piece. You did have a question of the week.
Well, and I forgot to type this in because I just now thought of it. And do you remember what the date for the Netflix Drive to Survive launch?
February 24th.
Okay, I thought I remembered you putting that in here or saying that.
I did. It's at the beginning of the category.
Oh, I see it now. Premiere February 24th.
Yep.
I thought I saw it. Okay, good.
Yeah.
Last week, the question of the week last week was, has an American? We started talking about Logan Sargent, and the question of the week was, has an American ever won an F1 race? And you found the answer.
Yeah. So 2 world champions, actually. Phil Hill in 1966 and Andretti in 1978. So I was -8 when Phil Hill won it, and I was 4 years old when Andretti won it. So
I wasn't alive. I've never seen
not quite yet an F1 fan.
I've never seen an American win an F1 race. I was not born for either one of them.
Yeah.
So maybe Logan Sargent will be that guy someday. I don't think he's going to be that guy at Haas, but maybe he'll move up somewhere. I
got to do some Logan Sargent recon, man, and kind of see where he's coming from. I just don't. Again, though, I'm not expecting much in a Williams car, even if he's ultra talented.
No, Haas.
Yes, sorry.
Yeah.
No, Williams.
Oh, no, Williams.
Yes.
That's
Thanks
right.
For trying to change it. Almost changing my mind, yeah. Logan Sargent, the fuel pod has moved you. By the fuel pod, you've been moved.
You would rather be a Haas. Logan, don't argue with us. You would rather be a Haas.
Yeah, you'd rather be a Haas.
Okay, so
that brings us to that kills it, man. We're at news and social stuff.
Well, you glanced over the store. We talked about it a lot at the beginning.
Oh crap!
This is your baby. I'm going to let you go through everything here.
Okay, so you can see the link at the bottom of your screen right there, thefuelpod.etsy.com. But we do finally have merch available, and nice pretty much in droves. We have T-shirts, we've got hoodies, we got beanies, we got hats. I've got drawstring bags, I've got slides, I've got towels, stickers, and 20-ounce tumblers. The insulated tumbler. I'm not going to use the word that everybody uses to describe these, but you know what word I'm talking about. It rhymes with Getty, but it's not Getty. Anyway, we have those available. We also I literally have some sweatpants for these cold winter months when you're hanging around your house and it's drafty. Those went up today. So, they're all fuel pod designed. Right now, they all have color codes of the F1 teams, since that's pretty much the focus of our podcast. So you'll see some Ferrari red and some Red Bull navy blue with the sun and the silver arrows and the orange and blue for McLaren. So, whatever you're into. And if you don't like those, you just like the colors, just grab whatever color you want. You can do whatever you want.
We did actually. So at the very beginning, I said, we were talking about how hard you've worked on this. And if our listeners are out there right now that they're watchers that weren't listening earlier, these shirts and hats and I mean, like, they're legit. Like, there is some work that went into these things. Like, the Ferrari shirt looks like a Ferrari shirt logo with the fuel pod in there. The Mercedes shirt looks like, they're legit. So even if you don't buy anything, we would love for you to buy stuff and rock our merch. And that way, when people ask you what the hell is the fuel pod, you can say what it is. And that's going to be our biggest selling point. But just go check it out. Check out the store. Look at it. I put a comment up here. This is Lisa Dorman, friend of mine that lives in Dallas. Listened earlier, went and checked out the store and said, holy crap, they look great. You know what I mean? Like, nice.
Oh, well, I was going to ask you who that was, and if you knew who that was.
Yes.
So I'm going to say thank you.
So that is someone that is probably never, I guarantee you she's never watched Formula One. I would bet you anything she's never watched a Formula One race, but went on there, checked them out, and thought the designs looked great. So thank you.
Hey, we even got some of the earliest St. Patty's Day fuel pod livery stuff that you can get. So there is an Irish themed one on there. So enjoy it.
There you go. So, and give us ideas. I see that as your thing. If there's something that we need to put up, or Jay, I say we very loosely there. Jay is the creative design team at the Fuel Pod. So if there's something that he needs to work on, as far as design, throw that out there, man, because he is the magician when it comes to that stuff.
And Chad's really working on the subscriber piece, and we really want to create like a subscriber loot box that you'd get maybe once a year or twice a year that has some of the merch in it. So, and that would be like a second tier subscription, but it's just something we want to move towards. And obviously you can always listen to us whenever we're live, but if you want some cool stuff and kind of get background, like for instance, the syllabus or agenda for this show goes out to anybody that subscribes to our Fuel Pod as well. So they kind of get a preview of what we're going to talk about, which is also cool.
And we're hoping we'll have a couple more shows. I as the guy with a terrible schedule, hopefully we'll have a couple of shows leading into the race that will be subscriber based. We'll have our normal show that we have on every live thing that we can put it on, plus podcast, plus ESPN Paris 105.1. But we're hoping to do some extras during the week too.
Yeah. So, anyway,
anything else we need to go through? This has been a long episode, Jay.
No, we're good to go, man. Let's close her out.
So I'll let you close it out. You did a great job with it last time.
So last but not least, I do want to cover real quick. We had the Dakar rally that finished up. It's 16 days in the Saudi Arabian desert. It's roughly 5,000 miles, 8,000 clicks across the Saudi desert. It's the most grueling endurance race of the year. Nasser Al-Attiyah, who's won this, he won it last year. He defended his title this year. The Red Bull KTM bikes did a great job this year and finished out first and second. So just, it's a race that is near and dear to me, and I hope you guys will check it out as you continue your journey with the Fuel Pod, because it's a pretty cool race. Moving on to closing us out, man. Listen, folks, you can follow us on Twitch at Chad H610. That's that guy over this. But yeah. And I'm GMJ729 on Twitter. Also Chad H610. He's super creative. And I'm JNeil729. I wish mine was actually the same.
It's all about consistency, baby.
I've been the same GMJ guy on Twitch and PlayStation, Xbox forever. So anyway, that's our social stuff. We also obviously have the YouTube, the Fuel Pod YouTube, which you can find this stream. We're working on Facebook is so weird. So we're working on some Facebook stuff too to get that going. And obviously, as we've mentioned multiple times tonight, we have the merch store, the fuelpod.etsy.com, which is at the bottom of your screen. My hand is okay. I can't even get it. So anyway, it's at the bottom of your screen.
I see it.
Yeah. So big shouts out to Mikey, who's always big support for us. Elisa, thanks for joining us tonight and giving us props on the store. So appreciate that. And everybody else that listened in, Stu, Jason, thank you very much. Douglas, Dylan, if you guys were there, thank you. And that's all I got, man. Let's get it.
All right, man. We will see you the next time we're live. I don't know if it'll be next week, but maybe the week after that. Sound good?
All righty. Sounds great.
All right, man. Y'all have a great week.
Thank you.